Holiday Walk, State of the Garden, April 2nd, 2025. We have started expanding into the back zone, which previously had been storing all the equipment and non-native lavenders. And we've put in some irises, have a nice fragrant island pitcher sage, and then went ahead and put in a Mantegea poppy this year. And I will say, poppies are, when they say they grow fast, they grow really, really fast. They've got beautiful blooms. Do watch out though, they've got little itty bitty tiny thorns on them. So come on, focus. So if you're going to go ahead and put them in, make sure that you use gloves when you're handling them, because they will bite. Little thorns, not big thorns, but still, they bite. And it grows towards the sun, which I will say in the back area, just replaced a former lavender there with a California Bob Penstemon and a couple of chain things. This area back here is a little bit of a challenge because, as you can see, it's in the shade now. It gets a lot of shade, and at certain times of the year it gets a lot of sun. The ferns were a good idea initially, but I thought this fern would be a great idea, and it got kind of a little bit scorched when it had extra sun in the area. So it'd be a little bit challenging to actually grow things here, but we will try. And back to the poppy, it is leaning. It leans straight in towards the back wall area, which is where the sun goes streaming in. So I'm going to have to do something to keep it contained. I've already cut it back 3 times. I mean, they grow, but you still want them to grow in their areas because you want other things to grow as well. We had raccoons get into my little mini pond here. The raccoons pulled out every single big plant I had, most of the fish, the heater, the bubbler. It's a little bit of a disaster zone there. Raccoons. Took down the old oak. The oak was getting up into the power lines on a very regular basis. PG&E evaluator even stopped by and said, yes, we will 100% authorize getting this tree taken down. It was a non-native oak, so I am not too unhappy to see it go. I kept a lot of the logs. Eventually I'll do something with it, and man, it's opened up a lot of sunlight in this area. There's a lot of little seedling oaks still around that I've got to pull up. If you ever get an oak, even a California native oak, be prepared for little seedlings everywhere. The ribus is enjoying the fact that it's out from under the oak now. It's actually grown and flowered a lot more. So happy ribus. I guess it's getting enough shade right there, and it's not unhappy anymore. So I am looking forward to seeing what grows out more, and it'll be a couple more years before I'm able to plant something, wait for the roots underneath to die out. So I've got a couple of years to decide what's going to get planted in that area. We're starting to pop up with a lot of the Douglas irises, and as usual, now is the time of year when I can actually figure out what color the various irises are. I cannot at other times of the year know what colors they are. Every year I promise myself I'm going to go ahead and actually write down which colors they are. Most Douglas irises are purple, but there are some variations in that. Obviously this is a variation. The Yerba Buena has spread out quite a bit. It's fine. Yerba Buena is pretty easy to control. It does not get out of control to, beyond where you want it to go. It does seem like it's choking out the alum roots just a bit, or that could be choking out from the oak roots from before. I'm going to have to go ahead and check that out or clear the area a little bit. But I think they're okay. They're pretty hardy, and I don't yet want to get rid of all my yerba buenas. I like the yerba buena. Speaking of the lines, we have the ever-growing issue of the elderberry. The elderberry is a wonderful tree. It's actually a great tree. The birds absolutely love it. It's a great native tree, and it was a volunteer. It was not actually planted there deliberately. As you can see, the elderberry wants to grow straight. I do not want it to grow straight. It grows straight. It goes straight up into those lines. So I do have to go ahead and trim it every single year. And I'm leaving these for the moment just as examples to show, oh look, nature will find its way, because it did all that curving into the space all on its own. But on the other hand, look at all those shoots. You get a big elderberry tree, you're going to spend a lot of time trimming it. So I will say that's constant trimming. The hummingbird sage is increased its territory, which every year it increases its territory. It started off as 3 plants once upon a time and is expanding. I love hummingbird sage. This is great. Nothing else grows underneath the fig tree. So because the fig tree has this weird dichotomy of 100% shade and 100% sun, depending on whether it's got all of its leaves or not. So it's very hard to get anything that aren't weeds to grow underneath it. So I am absolutely delighted that the hummingbird sage loves it underneath the fig tree. This is the most successful coyote mint in the entire world, as far as I know. Okay, in my yard. I've got coyote mints everywhere. This coyote mint loves this particular spot. It's got a lot of shade, but it does have a bit of streaming light in, and it just likes that spot. I'm like, if you like that spot, go for it. Speaking of other plants that are very, very happy that I have issues with sometimes because they're so happy, this is Salvia bees bliss. This is Salvia somnosus. Pronunciation is not my key. And I was trying originally to focus in. There's a native bumblebee that was taking advantage of the things here. Speaking of bees bliss, it is a wonderful ground cover. It is a delightful ground cover. This used to be 3 plants 7 years ago. As you can see, it's decided to take over the yard. I have to constantly be trimming this thing back. The bricks are not there to hold it back. As you can see, it is growing happily over the bricks. The bricks are there mostly to define for me where I want to trim it and say this far and no further. It has, and it will, if you let it, just keep growing up to the trees and overgrow everything. An interesting difference between the Bees Bliss salvia and the hummingbird sage there is the Bees Bliss salvia crawls over things. So it goes up and over and then sends roots on down below it. The hummingbird salvia does the exact opposite thing. It goes ahead and sends all its roots out underneath the ground and underneath the mulch, and then it pops up with little seedlings. Actually, it's one big long organism. They're not separate seedlings, but then it pops up underneath. So it is interesting to note that we are having battles between the hummingbird sage and the bees bliss, and honestly, I'm not letting this battle go without my intervention. Yeah, I keep that as a dividing line. I'm like, hey, this is a dividing line there. That is the overwintering pile. That pile of twigs and everything is there deliberately. It's there so that bees and critters and such have a place to hibernate for the winter time. So let's see. The cherry tree is blossoming, yay! The ceanothus, oh, it is a gorgeous ceanothus, and it's too bad it's not a brilliant sunny day. Actually, okay, I like cloudy days. Cloudy days are nice. Cloudy but sunny is wonderful. But they are starting to lose a little bit of their bloom right now. But as you can see, this dark star ceanothus is doing really, really wonderful. That's a Julia Phelps ceanothus in the back there with a dwarf orange, and I need another, false orange, not a dwarf. And I forget the scientific name for it, but I need one of those up closer because when it blooms, oh, it's a lovely, lovely scent. I can see why it got that smell. The people I bought this house from had bamboo throughout the whole yard. The bamboo escaped to the yard on the other side, and then when I finally got rid of all the bamboo, there's still a little patch of bamboo on the other side, which occasionally tries to make it back to its original area. But we keep it contained. Jujube trees are starting to blossom. The sagebrush, I've got a lot of different varieties of sagebrush. This one is the mounding variety. Canyon? Is this the canyon? Oh, yes, this is the canyon gray sagebrush. And it's supposed to be a small mound instead of big mound, but a little bit bigger than ground cover. It's decided to do its own thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm happy. Not a lot of other things grow in this little section back here, so I'm happy enough, and I love sagebrush. So go for it. This is another little patch of Bee's Bliss salvia that gets a little bit more sun, but as you can see, it's growing out too. I actually cut this thing back quite a bit because I do have other things that want to grow here, and it keeps exploding again. So keep an eye on your Bee's Bliss salvia if you plant it. It's a good problem to have, don't get me wrong. The California fuchsia gets trimmed back every single year, and it is starting to pop its way out again and say, hello, it is time for me to grow. Same with the Rogers red grape back there. The grape is also getting into the neighbor's Bradford pear. That's dangerous. That's a horrible tree. Do not ever plant that tree. But I was also losing sun back there, so I myself chopped some of that tree down. That was overhanging my side. It is legal to trim your neighbor's trees in your side of the yard. So hopefully there's more sun for it. Sadly though, we also had some frost this winter, which is not very common in California, and my poor little long run tree succumbed to the frost. I was not diligent enough in taking care of it. It's still there for the moment. As an example, I'm gonna put a big sign saying, take care of your plants during the frost. No, and I'm gonna have to get a new one. Poor little long run. And I felt so bad for it, and I was so looking forward to the long runs. Woolly blue plurals is blooming out right now. I love my white sage. That white sage is beautiful and gorgeous, and man, that is one great white sage. It gets trimmed back every year. You can see how woody it is, but it keeps springing back every year again. More woolly blue curls. This was supposed to be the cactus zone area, but the California fuchsia got over here as well. They are good at escaping their boundaries, and it's really, really hard to keep it controlled. And I gotta say, weeding around cactuses is a problem. It's very hard to weed around cactuses. I'm trying to do my best to weed around cactuses. I'm not getting rid of the fuchsia altogether, although at some point I might have to, but just because it does choke other things out, and it allows other weeds inside of it, and I gotta do something. But at the moment, another escapee is the white sage. So the white sage throws out seedlings everywhere, and I've been amused enough to let some of the seedlings grow. So We've got seedlings, white sage, little branches everywhere. Most of them are at the edge of the pathway, which is right between where it's been heavily mulched and where the ground is. So the seed finds a crack in the mulch area down to the ground, and then boom, we have little white sage seedlings. That guy just found a spot because guess what? Rocks aren't good enough. But I'm amused by it right there, and I'm happy enough with it, so I'm letting it stay for now, although I'll probably be trimming it. Oxalis is evil. You do not want oxalis in your yard. Oxalis is bad. They're pretty, but evil. Weed out oxalis when you see it. We have lizards popping up everywhere. I do not deliberately grow the lizards, but I make little hiding spots for them and rock piles, which the lizards are happy to use. Lizard hideout. Lizards cannot actually run backwards. Some of them can run sideways, but lizards on the alert, pretty much when they're in danger, they run forwards. So giving them, okay, you are seriously, I'm getting really close there, but so giving them the rock piles gives them chances to hide and escape much more readily than they would if they were just out in the open, because they can just duck down straight into the rock pile area there and find a little crack and hide from whatever's trying to hunt them. This does not mean all the lizards in the yard are safe. There's a lot of things hunting them. So, but I do what I can, and hey, I love seeing the lizards around. Okay. We trimmed back the Santa Cruz bush. It was getting a little bit out of control. Whoop, whoop, more lizards. This means that the soap plant is giving a chance to grow a little bit more. No, I have not actually used any of the soap plant roots, but gauging by all the little seedlings there, I think I'm going to have a chance to use the soap roots, because that's a lot of soap root. But I'm curious about it. I will be interested in using it and seeing whether it really does. I mean, I know it does, but I haven't personally used it, so there. Needs to be an actual test. Look at all these lizards. Man, lizards, lizards, lizards everywhere. Lizards are good for your garden. Lizards are wonderful for your garden. Enjoy your lizards. I mean, you got lizards in your yard, you have a good habitat. Good habitats are what our native plants are all about, and just keeping a garden. Oh man, I mean. Okay, another thing that exploded this year are my pepino melons. They also got severely frost damage, so I cut them back extremely, but they're happy enough. I trimmed them down, and they are springing back right away and going, let me fruit, let me fruit. I did save some of the trimmings. I'm hoping some of them will root, and then I'll have more pepino melons to maybe give away. And we have explosion of poppies. This year, I decided to also go ahead and put in ceanothuses on the side. That will survive. The poppies grow deep, straight roots, so they are not too much of a danger of choking things out, but I am going to have to be a little bit careful. But poppies spread a lot of seeds, and they're everywhere, and they are gorgeous, but they have short blossoming seasons, and then the plants themselves die down. So you're going to want something in the area besides just poppies. So in this case, I've put in that ceanothus. This is just the first year, actually. It was planted in, what, October? I'm amazed. I'm like, that is. But I love that purple flowers next to the orange flowers. Look for them. And I put in a little ground cover one down there, which will look a little bit better once the poppies have died back for the year. I might just do another bush. And then I've got a coyote bush there, which is also doing very well. And we've got different types of poppies. So, state of the backyard, 2025. Yay!